All right, so get ready to dive into something really unique. You ready for this?
Always. Hit me with it.
Okay, so we've got a source that claims the Earth is, well, not flat, not exactly, but
Not the round Earth we're all familiar with.
not quite. More like bumpy, I guess. Uneven surfaces.
Okay. I'm picturing a lumpy potato.
And get this, it's all one big conspiracy. A conspiracy that apparently goes all the way back to ancient Phoenicians.
That's a new one. Most flat Earth theories skip right past the ancients.
Right. And then it continues through history, involves Dutch sailors, and get this, even modern airlines are in on it.
Ooh, okay. So there's a historical narrative here. I'm intrigued. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So the source talks about these uneven surfaces, not exactly a flat plane, more like I don't know, a wild off-roading adventure across the planet, maybe. What do you think?
It sounds like maybe there's a bit of a misunderstanding of the scale we're talking about here. You know, when we say sphere, it's a massive surface. You're going to have mountains, valleys, oceans. I mean, the Earth is a pretty diverse place, right?
Yeah. Right. But the source also dismisses the whole 40,000 kilometer circumference thing, like completely writes it off. Doesn't even try to explain it.
Well, that's something you see a lot with these sorts of theories, this rejection of established facts, but without really offering alternative proof. So how does the source think this whole round Earth thing got started? Is there a motive?
Yeah, the source claims it's all about profit, that this idea was basically concocted to inflate profits.
Yeah.
And it all started, supposedly, way back with those Phoenician traders. They were like exaggerating distances to jack up prices for their goods.
The Phoenicians, I mean, I'll give them this, they were incredible seafarers. But think about it. Navigating the Mediterranean, let alone the whole world, thousands of years ago, no GPS, no accurate maps. You think their measurements were always spot on.
True. It makes sense that things wouldn't be super precise back then. I mean, we're talking about a completely different era of technology.
Right. So whether it was intentional deception or just, the limits of what they could measure back then, that's a question worth exploring. A little historical mystery for our listeners.
I like it. But the source goes even further, saying that Dutch sailors kept the round Earth scam going. Overcharging for trade routes to the East Indies, all about squeezing every last penny out of those voyages.
Well, the Dutch and, let's be honest, the British Empire that followed, they were definitely all about making money, no doubt about that. But their control came from, I think, more of monopolizing resources, not so much inflating distances, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that makes sense. And plus, wouldn't like rival empires and merchants have figured it out, called them out on it?
Exactly. It seems like having accurate maps would be pretty crucial for controlling trade routes. So where do modern airlines come into play?
Okay, buckle up for this one. The source claims they're keeping this whole round Earth lie going too, intentionally extending flight times so they can make more money off of us.
So basically, they're just flying us around in circles, burning extra fuel, racking up those frequent flyer miles.
Right, I'm suddenly feeling like I deserve a refund for all those long-haul flights I've taken.
I have a feeling we'd probably notice those extra hours in the air, though, wouldn't we? I mean, haven't you ever tracked your flight on those little seatback screens? Flight times are influenced by a ton of things. Wind speeds, air traffic control.
Yeah, yeah.
Even the most efficient route isn't always a straight line. There's a whole science to it, really.
That's true. Something else I noticed while reading this source was how intense the language is, where it's like tricked, fools, greedy. It felt like the source was intentionally trying to provoke a reaction, to, I don't know, maybe rile people up.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It definitely has that us versus them vibe to it. And that's honestly a common tactic in a lot of conspiracy theories, using strong emotional language, to kind of bypass our logic and make these ideas feel more personal, more urgent, like, we have to do something about it.
Right. It taps into our need to have things explained, and sometimes maybe a simple answer, even if it's wrong, is more comforting than a complex truth.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. Psychologists even have a term for this. It's called cognitive ease. It's basically our brain's preference for ideas that are easy to understand and process, even if they're not totally accurate. Like, have you ever noticed that we tend to believe things more if they rhyme? It's kind of funny when you think about it, but our brains are wired in some pretty fascinating ways.
Yeah, I guess that's why those jingles get stuck in our heads, huh? So we spent this deep dive exploring this really interesting perspective, this unique take on why someone might reject the idea of a spherical Earth. Using historical examples, strong emotional language. It's definitely given us a lot to chew on.
It really has. And this whole deep dive, I think, brings up an even bigger question. Why are certain conspiracy theories so persistent, even when all the evidence contradicts them? What does that tell us about how we humans search for meaning, how we try to make sense of the world around us? Something to think about, wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
yeah, absolutely. Something to ponder. Well, on that note, that's our deep dive for today.
Uh,
Thanks for listening, everybody.
And keep those brains questioning.